And welcome to Impact 2024. This is our continuing conversation where we talk about all types of topics: race, religion, current events, everything you can think of. This is that safe place where you can have an open conversation and dialogue. And the way that you do that, you type your questions, you type your comments into the comment section. And so you participate. You tell us how you're feeling about situations, how you're feeling about certain things, and we're going to address them. That's what we do. So please feel free to type your questions and your comments into that section. Before we start, I just want to highlight again who we are, Amani Christian Ministries. Just so if you're sitting back here and you're like, man, who are these people who run Impact and do Impact? This is a part of Amani Christian Ministries where we open up to be able to have a conversation and a dialogue. So I just want to make sure that people know that and know from where this is coming. We're going to hop right into the topic. What I'm going to tell you right now, I apologize to everyone. This topic that we're having today, I tried to bring in a person who could not get it together. So if you want to type your questions and your comments in, please feel free, because this is a topic that I think is important, something that we kind of need to look at, and it is a current event as well. So I'm going to double back on it. Everybody who's been here before, I'm been here now. Questions, comments, comment section, and let's roll on it. Everyone knows what I'm talking about here. You all know the topic at hand, which I'm talking about here, and that is Puff Daddy, Puffy, whatever his name is, whatever name you want to consider him, Sean Puffy Combs. If y'all know what has been going on within the last week, CNN, the news channel, was able to get a hold of a videotape. Videotape. I don't know if that's even what you say nowadays, but a tape that showed Puffy and his former girlfriend. They were in a hotel room. The former girlfriend was trying to leave the hotel, go into the elevator. Puffy comes running down the hall in a towel, grabs the girl, slams her down, kicks her multiple times, and then goes on his way. Drags her down the hall a little bit and goes on his way. This is after they had a big to-do in the previous year where she sued him for, or tried to sue him for $30 million. They settled out of court where she claimed a bunch of different things, abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, other things like that, that she claimed that Puffy Combs, P. Diddy, whatever you want to call him, participated in. And so he settled immediately. As soon as she put out the suit, boom, he settled. Of course, he denied everything, and now this video has come out, and so there's people everywhere just, oh man, Puffy, man, this is terrible. You're a terrible person. You've done this, you've done that, and so that's what's been going on. It's been this parade of people talking about how bad he is and all these things. And so what did he do? He owned it. He came out. He had an apology. He said, I'm sorry, I did these things. I'm trying to get help. Gone through having a reassessment of my life, and I'm going to get help. And so he owned it. Why are we talking about this? That's always the question, because then it came to the next part. All of these people saying, well, that apology was disingenuous. That wasn't okay. I don't accept his apology. All of these other things that other people are saying, basically piling on. Now, from my standpoint, I saw it. I saw the apology, read the apology. From a PR standpoint of how it looked, and I'm not a PR professional, but it was an apology. It wasn't I'm dodging this situation, like that's not what it was, or you don't understand what was going on at the time, or I was stressed out. None of that. Just a 100% I own it and I'm going to get help. And people said that wasn't okay and that wasn't sufficient. And people are like, man, that apology wasn't, I don't know, he's not taking responsibility for everything. I don't know what other words you could hear somebody say to take responsibility. And so the reason we're talking about this, the why, is forgiveness. What is, for us as Christians, forgiveness? What do we expect that to be? What does that look like, especially in this particular situation? You have somebody who, yes, they did a horrible, horrible thing. And then they apologize. Where does forgiveness come in? Where does forgiveness come in from the individuals involved, but also from the outside bystanders, the outside spectators, all these folk who want to pile in with their little comments saying that, okay, he apologized, but that wasn't okay. That wasn't, his apology wasn't genuine, or his apology wasn't enough, or his apology wasn't real, or whatever. Where does forgiveness come into play? There was other people, plenty of people have chimed in. Most of them have been, this is not okay, this is terrible. But there have been a couple of people who chimed in and said, you know what, we're going to pray for the victim. Now, this happened in 2016, but they're going to pray for the victim because of whatever reason or rationale. Some of them said because of the fact that that's bringing the trauma back, because they were able to survive this whole incident. And so people applauded that. And then there were other people who said, I'm going to pray for the victim, and I'm also going to pray for Puffy or P. Diddy, or whatever, again, whatever you want to call him. And they're praying for him because he earnestly and genuinely, from what their perception was, came out here and said that it wasn't okay, apologized, and is looking for help along his way and along the journey. And those people were criticized. Like, oh, what you doing? Why are you going to pray for him? You need to pray for the victim. We said we would pray for everybody involved. And so that goes back to the level of, again, forgiveness. As a society, we got into this mode and in this moment of cancel culture. And in that moment and mode of cancel culture, what we want to make sure that we do is, if anybody does anything bad to the degree that we think is cancel worthy, then they should be out, which means, I guess, they can't be famous anymore, or they can't work in their job anymore, and nobody should talk about them, and everybody should reject them and shun them and push them off to the side. The part about cancel culture that we don't, what we don't add to it is there's no part for redemption. It is canceling. You can't be redeemed if you're canceled. You can't be able to improve if you're canceled. You're out. And there's been a lot of people who've rallied against it, but yet it's still a part of what's going on. Even so, that if you are a person who wants to lend a helping hand, or you want to lend some support to somebody who's on their journey of getting themselves into a better place, you get criticized and canceled as well. And so when people were showing a little bit of support for Puffy, saying that what you did was a horrible thing, but if you truly are on this journey to getting yourself and making yourself a better person, then we support you, or we're praying for you, and we hope that you succeed. Those people were getting criticized, and those people were being lumped in as bad folk as well. So where does forgiveness come in? If someone is apologetic and asks for forgiveness, should we give it to them? Should we offer it to them? How do we allow that to happen? How do we allow forgiveness to happen? Can you live in a place where you are canceling and at the same time forgiving? And do you have a responsibility if somebody asks, regardless of how horrible the thing is? And that's what we got to realize sometimes, how horrible the situation is. What does forgiveness look like for us? Now, as Christians, as people who go to church, people who believe in God, we have a responsibility. That's why it's often said it's not easy being a Christian, because one of your major responsibilities is forgiveness. And so I don't think that we can be out there constantly trying to condemn and constantly trying to bring people down. Regardless of what they do, we should have a path to redemption. And if somebody asks for forgiveness, if somebody gives an apology, our job is to take them at their word. That's what I believe. And so how do we do that? How do you forgive? It also goes to the situation, that's the strong parallel. And that's what's going on right now. You can't attack others who are trying to do the right thing by saying, all right, if you're trying to really get to a place of redemption, if you're trying to get to a place just of betterment, then we're going to pray for you and help you and assist you. Forgiving has to allow for the opportunity to redeem. You can't forgive and just be like, all right, we forgive you, but you need to be shunned to the side. The law is on his side basically in the sense of right now he can't be prosecuted for it. It's past the statute of limitations. So it's a 2016 event, it's past statute of limitations. So you can't sit back and say, well, after you do some jail time, then we'll forgive you. It's not going to happen. So how do you where are you going to get yourself into a groove of where you're going to be able to forgive somebody? Financially, he paid, he had a settlement, that's over. There is no jail time, so that's over. Then what are you trying to punish? When are you going to try to forgive? All right, and we have our comments, and it says, I would like to know what kind or type of apology would have been acceptable. The reality is most people don't want to accept apologies because they want to criticize and tear down people. Even persons who claim to be Christians don't want to forgive. They need people to look down on. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there was no, it doesn't matter what the apology. When I tell you, and again, if you want to look at it, after this is over, if you think that I'm talking crazy, go take a moment and, you can find it anywhere, CNN put it out and put it online. You can see what the apology is. And I don't know what else you possibly can say that somebody's going to sit there and be like, okay, I finally accept it. So yeah, I think that's 100% right. You hit it on the head. There's a bunch of people out here who don't want to accept it because they just want to criticize. They just want to push you down. They want to hurt and harm you because somebody else was hurt and harmed. You want to hurt and harm. Now, you don't know what happened between 2016 and now, but you want to make sure that you participate in the process of hurting and harming this individual. Now, I get it when the businesses cut ties. For example, Peloton today, we found out Peloton, his music was played on the Peloton bikes when they were going around and exercising, and they decided to drop him off of there. One of his former businesses that he owned, a television channel, said, we're disappointed in what occurred. Even though he doesn't own that company anymore, cut ties with them. That's fine to make those statements. I think that's fine if from a business point you want to cut ties necessarily with somebody. That's fine. I don't get all mixed up into that. I know people want to do their bottom line, but I think as individuals, as Christians, we can't sit back here and criticize somebody who's trying to do better. If that's the case, then we're in trouble. I think our whole thing here is allowing people to redeem themselves, allowing people to become better, allowing people to fix what was broken or to be a new person. And you can't do that if we're not going to allow them to do that. If we're going to judge everybody's judging apologies. Look, if you're going to be genuine, then you're going to be genuine. And this goes a bunch of different ways. However, this also goes to what we've been talking about over and over again, one of the biggest news stories, which is Gaza. Now we're not talking about Christians for the most part in this scenario, but as Christians, that's how we have to color it and look at this scenario. We have to look at our ability to forgive, our ability to look at other people and see whether or not they're forgiving, and then offer up the fact that everyone needs to be forgiving out here in this process. And so, regardless of how you feel, of who you feel is right or wrong, or who you feel is good or bad, that area of forgiveness has to come into play. And it's hard to forgive when you're still in the zone of hatred and revenge. And I think that's the part that we're in our get back. But forgiveness comes, I think, in all these situations, it comes with some vulnerability, because we have to sit back here and we have to allow people to hurt again. The only way to forgive, let's say in the Gaza Israeli situation, Hamas Gaza Israeli situation, they were talking about different scenarios of what happens at the end, like if and when this whole war skirmish is over, where is forgiveness coming in? And the forgiveness then comes into play where people have to, unfortunately, open themselves up to the possibility of being hurt again. That's what forgiveness is. I can't forgive you if I'm still holding you or holding onto your neck, like holding you down. I can't forgive you if I don't allow you to to live and be better. You can't be better if I'm just holding you back in that same old situation. I was listening to some of the conversation that was going on, and so in Israel, there's Netanyahu who, he's running the situation over there for Israel. And what he was saying was that once this is done, what he envisions happening is that Israel will take care of all of the security for both Israel and the Palestinians in Gaza. He said he wants the Palestinians to be able to govern themselves outside of any kind of security. And he said, the reason being, and his reason and rationale was, if we allow you to have ability to secure yourselves and have military presence and have policing power, then because you were weak in the past and you allowed other countries to come in and infiltrate and kind of take over and influence how you did things, we can't let you do that again. So we need to take over the policing power. Y'all you can govern yourselves as a country, but you just can't have any, no military might, no policing power, because you're too weak, and other countries will come in and influence you and take over, and then you're back to being a place that has terrorist activities and things like that. Now, regardless of how you feel about the political situation, that's not forgiveness. Because under no scenario is that forgiveness, where you're if you feel like you were wronged and you were harmed, and you go out of here and we're going to do all this stuff and we're going to take these people out, but then we're going to make a presence there where we're still controlling everything. That's not forgiveness. Now, whether or not that's right or wrong from a political level, that's whatever. Again, but as a Christian looking at a situation between Jews and Muslims and others, I'm confident in saying that's not what forgiveness looks like. That's what you did something bad and I'm fixing the situation, but I don't forgive you because I'm going to remind you of what happened, and I'm never going to let you move in a manner of where you're fully who you are. Comment. As Christians, we have a responsibility to take care of, protect, and help God's creation. Yeah. Take care of, help, and protect. I 100% on that. And that goes for everybody. So when we're watching other people and how they're interacting, I think our responsibility, and that's what I'm taking from this comment, our responsibility is to interject and just remind people, look, this is the way that Christians carry in this situation. And this is what we think is right. This is what we think forgiveness looks like. And we think that you should be forgiving and trying to forgive, which is a difficult task. And so if you don't know how to do it, let me show you. But I think that's where we more so should be coming from. And that's what our responsibility is. We got to take care of others. We got to protect others. While that sounds like Roman occupation, yeah. Not only does that sound like Roman occupation, that also is what we did to the Germans after World War II. So people can sit back and you can evaluate that how you want to. But Germany was able to govern themselves, but they were not able to amass an army. We also did that with some other countries. In some Asian countries after the war, where we basically sat back and we said, I'm talking, when I say we, the U.S. and other major powers, we were ones who said that, where you can govern yourselves, but you can't really put together an army. We're not letting you do that. And so that's as much as that may sound like smart policy, and it may be, honestly, it may be the right policy, but it's not forgiveness. It's not Christian policy. It's not, It's not what we're looking for. I think so. Forgiveness is that vulnerability, allowing to be hurt, allowing yourself to be hurt again. Unfortunately, because if I'm allowing you to be great and be or restore you, if I allow to restore you to who you were, then who you were has the same ability to do all the bad things you did before, and all some good things that you may do better. But if you are fully restored, then you have the ability to choose again. And the hope is that you won't choose the wrong path again. But the only way to be fully restored is to have that ability to choose right and wrong again. Otherwise, you haven't been forgiven. You haven't been restored. And so that's difficult. And so it is. It's difficult, and it should be difficult, honestly, because the world is easy. It's easy to be mad. It's easy to seek revenge. It's easy to sit out here and just pout. It's easy to do those things. The difficult path is the one that we usually take. And I think that's that forgiveness. So when we're looking at we're looking at all of these people. There's a lot of people who do bad things. And when they make apologies, and that apology is not an excuse written apology, where you're sitting back here, it's not my fault, it's the world. I grew up in a bad situation. I'm stressed out. All right. When you're doing all that, you haven't gotten to a point where you're owning up to your responsibilities, and you can still be forgiven, but you haven't owned up to your responsibilities. So you're really not anywhere on the path. But when people sit back here and say, I did that, I own that, and I'm looking to be better, then that's where I think we have our responsibility and for forgiveness. And I think it's a tough one. It is. It's a tough one. But I think that's what we have to do. And then I'll turn around and say this. At the same time I say it's a tough one, it's a tough one for us in our personal lives. But for us who are sitting here watching stuff from the sidelines, come on, y'all. Like, it is ridiculous. If we can't forgive from the sidelines when the stuff doesn't even affect us, then I know that all these individuals' personal lives are screwed up. Like, if I'm sitting here and I'm saying, well, I'll never forgive Puffy for what he did, that ain't happened to you. That ain't happened to nobody in your family. You don't know none of these people. These are famous people that you are not connected to. So if you can't forgive people or being a forgiving mood from people that you know nothing about, or you might have been to the concert or you brought their CD, that's the worst thing. That's the best of your connection is. If you can't forget these people that you don't even know, how you gonna forget the folk that you know? Your brother, your sister, your cousin, your uncle, your aunt, the friend at work, the enemy at work. How you gonna forgive people that you're touching and seeing every day if we can't even forgive folk that we don't even know? I think that's one of the craziest things that I see out here. I think that's one of the craziest activities. We have so much hate and so much vitriol for people that we don't even know. Then how possibly could we be treating the people that we do know correctly? You know, it's in the Bible. It says the best. You know, how do you love, God who you haven't seen if you can't love or forgive your brother that you see every day? And that's the same thing. How are you going to sit here? How are you going to sit here and forgive the people that are closest to you if you can't even forgive a person that never even did anything bad to you, never even hurt you at all? You can't forgive them. So nothing physically bad happened to you, or no harm really came to you. You can't even forgive somebody who didn't do anything to you. There's no way you're gonna forgive a person who really actually hurt you. And so I think some of us, we need to check ourselves on that. I think we really need to check ourselves and our situations on that one. And we need to check others when we have these conversations. You just got to remind people, like, if somebody comes up and be like, I don't believe Puffy, man, he's terrible. He did a horrible thing. He absolutely did. We need to pray for him. And if he's really trying to get his help, then we need to pray that he gets his help. Does Israel really think they have made friends of the Palestinians? They have created lifelong enemies. You killed families, you destroyed livelihoods. Yes, Israel has done all of that. I don't know what they possibly could be thinking, other than the fact that maybe they're going to get real Christian at the end of this and hope that the Palestinians have a Christian heart and offer up some forgiveness. But the problem with that is, as Israelis, have you offered up forgiveness as well? Or are you just going in here and doing whatever you want to do? Both of these groups, whether they participated in it or not, Palestinians, Hamas, whoever, Israelis, whoever, both of these sides, both need to get on the forgiveness train. You got to forgive one another. And that's the only way that thing is going to work. And I think that's one of the main reasons that this thing has not worked, for decades, for a long time. And it probably won't work out into the future until we get some people in there who are going to be able to forgive one another. The Palestinians are going to have to be able to forgive the Israelis for the harm that they're doing right now, the mass murders that they're doing. The Israelis are going to have to be able to forgive Hamas for the horrific murders and activities that they did back in October 7th. Both parties are going to have to forgive one another, or this is not going to work. And then when it comes to us on this side as well, as we're looking at it in the United States, and we're doing protests and we're doing activities where we're having conversations about it, we got to remember that too. And so if you have a bad taste, I think for all of us, if we're sitting here with a bad taste in our mouth about what the Palestinians did. We need to put some forgiveness in our voice and realize, all right, that was an incident that they did, and we need to be able to forgive them for it. If we are sitting back here and we're looking at the Israelis and what they're doing and how horrible it is, we're right. And as soon as they stop, because you can't be asking forgiveness while you still out here just killing innocent civilians with reckless regard. But as soon as they stop, then we're going to have to be able to offer up that forgiveness to them as well. You need to stop and then ask for forgiveness, and then we need to be able to give it to you. And again, both sides, because even if you're Israel, you sit back and you're thinking, I was right because they came over here and they did this. Well, now you're wrong. And as Palestinians, when you're sitting back and you're thinking, well, they've been doing us wrong for so long, and that's why we were able to come out of here and do what we did. You may have been right, but now you're wrong. And so everybody needs to be forgiven. And so I think that's the message that we need to continue to push on. It's tough. It's tough. And the beautiful part about all of these horrible events that are going on is it gives us numerous examples of the type of practice that we need to put into our own personal lives. It gives us numerous examples of how people are not doing what they're supposed to do, and reminds us that we need to be doing what we're supposed to do. So if you've gone out here and you tweeted and you talked about how bad Puffy is and you'll never forgive him, and after you saw his apology, then we need to look at how we're approaching life. And are we following the word of God? And are we doing what we're supposed to do? And are we forgiving like we're supposed to forgive? Because at the end of the day, all of us have done some dumb stuff. And, who knows how horrible the dumb stuff is that we've done. And we want to be forgiven. So we got to give it out to other people. It is interesting that our leaders claim that they support the right of Israel to defend themselves. Do the Palestinians have the right to defend themselves? And that's what Israel's saying. Israel's saying no. Israel's saying after this is all over, they don't have the right to defend themselves. Because right now they can't. They don't have an army. They got Hamas, but they ain't really no army. So do they have a right to defend themselves? Israel says no. And so what are the rest of us going to say? What's the world going to say? And I say the only way you forgive somebody is give them the right to be restored to who they need to be. And that means they have to have the right to defend themselves. That's what I think. I could be wrong. And again, we're not talking about policy. We're not talking about what is the smart thing to do and the right thing to do as a country or politically or anything like that. Because those don't align up most of the time with what the Christian thing to do is, what the moral thing to do is. The moral thing to do is to sit back and say, you've done wrong. You've wronged me. I forgive you. And I'm not going to continue to wrong you. And that's not good policy. And so we got to understand that that's not good logic either. We got to understand that if we're going to be Christians, we got to be different from what the world is supposed to say. So there we go. That's my rant. My rant and rave. But that's the topic du jour. We have to be able to talk about forgiveness when we're looking at these situations and what it really is. Ooh. And we're going to go on this last one. Has Will Smith been forgiven? Ooh, that's a good one. And you got a movie coming out. Let's see now. Are we not going to watch him or we're not going to participate with him because we haven't forgiven him? Yeah, that's a tough one. All right, it's a tough one. So we got to ask ourselves that. Has Will Smith been forgiven? That's a good one. All right. Thank everyone for these comments. I really hope that whether you're seeing this live or you're seeing this after the fact, that you take to heart this particular one, because it's really is it's what everything is about. At the end of the day, it comes down to being able to forgive one another. And we ain't even talk about how you're supposed to love one another. We ain't got to loving one another. We just working on forgiveness. So I really hope people take this to heart and then have this discussion amongst ourselves and amongst others and amongst our friends and family and building relationships. That forgiveness is probably one of the greatest things that we need to be working on doing. All right. Well, again, thanks for all the comments. Thanks for everybody who showed up. Thursday Thirst, our weekly Bible study at 7:00 here on Facebook and YouTube. Please join us for that. If you really, we really need to dive into what God wants us to do. I think that's where we get it done. Sundays, 10:00 Eastern Standard Time. Same place, Facebook and YouTube. We have worship service Tuesdays today, 7 o'clock to 7:45. We have prayer. Please pray with us. You can pray at this at the number on the screen. And then every Tuesday at 8, we have Impact 2024. Feel free to contact at this number or anything like that. If you have topics or you want to join the show, let us know. Or the program, let us know. All right. Have a good one. Thank you, everybody who's been here. And join us again next week.